In the world of Silicon Valley, where ideas become fortunes overnight, one young woman promised to change the future of medicine. She had a vision so compelling that some of the most powerful people in America invested their money and their reputations in her dream. But behind the vision was a secret so dangerous it would destroy everything she built. This is the true story of Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos, and how ambition crossed the line into deception. Chapter 1: The Beginning. Elizabeth Holmes was born in 1984 in Washington, D.C. Her childhood seemed ordinary from the outside, but those close to her noticed something unusual, an almost relentless drive to win. As a little girl, she would tell her relatives she wanted to be a billionaire when she grew up. Her parents admired success and status. They encouraged her to dream big. When she was still in high school, she became fascinated by science and medicine. She believed technology could solve almost any problem. At just 19 years old, she enrolled at Stanford University to study chemical engineering. Chapter 2: The Idea That Changed Everything. At Stanford, Elizabeth stood out. She wasn't interested in college parties or small talk. She wanted to build something world-changing. She became inspired by her grandfather, a surgeon. She wanted to improve how diseases were diagnosed. Faster, simpler, less painful. She had the idea that would define her life. A device that could run hundreds of tests on just a single drop of blood. It sounded impossible, but Elizabeth was convinced it could be done. She shared her vision with her professor, Phyllis Gardner. Gardner told her it wouldn't work, the science wasn't there, but Elizabeth refused to believe it. She dropped out of Stanford in 2003 and started her own company, Theranos. Chapter 3: The Rise of Theranos. Theranos combined the words therapy and diagnosis. Elizabeth was just 19 when she founded it. She quickly learned that investors didn't care much about the technical details. They cared about her confidence and her promise that she would change the world. She wore black turtlenecks inspired by Steve Jobs. She practiced speaking in a deep, steady voice. She became an icon of female entrepreneurship. Investors lined up to meet her. People like Rupert Murdoch, the media billionaire, and powerful former statesmen George Shultz, Henry Kissinger, James Mattis, all joined her board. They believed in her dream, even if they didn't understand the technology. Soon, Theranos had raised hundreds of millions of dollars. The company was valued at nearly $9 billion. Elizabeth Holmes was named the youngest self-made female billionaire. Chapter 4: Building the Myth. Elizabeth was everywhere. Magazine covers, television interviews, conferences. She promised to revolutionize healthcare. Theranos signed a deal with Walgreens to put its testing devices in pharmacies across America. Imagine, walk into your neighborhood store, get a finger prick, and know instantly if you had high cholesterol or even cancer markers. It sounded like science fiction. But Elizabeth insisted it was real. Inside Theranos headquarters, though, the truth was different. Employees were working day and night, but the Edison device, the machine at the heart of Theranos, simply did not work. It produced erratic, unreliable results. But Elizabeth and her boyfriend, Sunny Balwani, who was also the company's COO, were determined to keep that secret. Anyone who asked too many questions was fired or sued. Chapter 5: The Culture of Fear. Theranos wasn't just secretive. It was a place where employees felt watched, intimidated, and pressured to stay silent. The labs were divided into isolated teams so no one had the full picture. Employees signed strict non-disclosure agreements. If you spoke out, the company's lawyers would come after you. Some employees left quietly, others stayed, worried about patients who might receive incorrect results. Many later said it was the most stressful time of their lives. One scientist, Ian Gibbons, struggled with guilt over the problems he couldn't fix. He died by suicide in 2013. His widow later said he felt trapped. He couldn't speak publicly, and he couldn't live with the deception. Chapter 6. The First Rumblings of Trouble. By 2015, whispers about Theranos started to reach journalists. The company's claims didn't add up. Its scientific data was never published in peer-reviewed journals. Doctors began reporting inconsistent test results. That same year, John Carreyrou, an investigative reporter at the Wall Street Journal, received a tip. Carreyrou began reaching out to former employees. The more he learned, the clearer the pattern became. Theranos had been manipulating data and misleading investors for years. Chapter 7. The Investigation. Elizabeth Holmes fought desperately to keep her secrets hidden. Theranos hired powerful lawyers to threaten Carreyrou and the Wall Street Journal. They sent letters warning of lawsuits and financial ruin. But the evidence kept growing. Carreyrou confirmed that Theranos often ran tests not on its Edison devices, but on commercially available machines it secretly modified. Elizabeth denied everything. She gave interviews, insisting her technology worked. But in October 2015, the Wall Street Journal published its bombshell exposé. Almost overnight, the illusion shattered. Chapter 8. The Fall of Theranos. Regulators launched investigations. Theranos' lab was shut down. Walgreens cancelled its partnership. The company's value plunged from $9 billion to nearly zero. Patients and doctors filed lawsuits, claiming Theranos' false results endangered lives. In 2018, federal prosecutors charged Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny Balwani with fraud and conspiracy. They were accused of deceiving investors and patients to raise more than $700 million. Chapter 9. The Trial and Verdict. The trials drew worldwide attention. Elizabeth Holmes still claimed she never intended to defraud anyone. Her defense argued she believed in the technology until the end. But witnesses told a different story. A culture of fear, secrecy, and manipulation that lasted for years. In January 2022, Holmes was convicted on 4 counts of fraud and conspiracy. She was sentenced to more than 11 years in prison. Sunny Balwani was convicted on 12 counts and sentenced to nearly 13 years. Chapter 10. The Aftermath and Lessons. Theranos no longer exists. Elizabeth Holmes went from billionaire to convicted felon. Investors lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Patients lost trust in the healthcare system. The story became a cautionary tale. Never invest without evidence. Never ignore the voices of whistleblowers. Never assume charisma equals credibility, because when ambition is left unchecked, it can become something much darker. Conclusion. Elizabeth Holmes started with a dream to make healthcare better. But when her technology failed, she didn't admit the truth. She doubled down, she hid the facts, and in the end, she hurt the very people she claimed she wanted to help. Her story is a reminder that even the brightest vision can lead to disaster, if no one dares to ask questions. If you found this story interesting, subscribe for more true accounts of ambition, innovation, and the hidden side of success. Because sometimes the most unbelievable stories are the ones that really happened. Thank you for watching.